The maid, the mansion, and the moment that changed everything. The morning sun had barely crested the skyline of Manhattan when Sophia Reyes arrived at the Harrington estate, just as she did every single day, quietly, punctually, and without complaint. She was 43 years old, a single mother of 2 teenage boys, and had been working as a housekeeper for the Harrington family for nearly 6 years. She knew every corner of that grand 5-bedroom home on the Upper East Side. She knew which floorboards creaked, which windows let in a draft in November, and exactly how Mr. Harrington liked his morning coffee. Black, 2 sugars, no stirring. Daniel Harrington was not the kind of man people expected him to be. At 48, he had built a real estate empire from practically nothing. Born to a middle-class family in Ohio, he had clawed his way up through hard work, sleepless nights, and more failures than he liked to count. He was sharp, decisive, and ruthless in business. But those who truly knew him understood there was something different underneath that tailored suit and commanding presence. He had a conscience, a real one. It was a crisp Tuesday in October when everything changed. Daniel had flown back early from a business trip in Chicago. A deal had closed ahead of schedule, and rather than stay an extra night at the hotel, he had taken the red-eye flight home. His assistant had tried to reach his wife, Victoria, to let her know, but Victoria had apparently been too busy hosting her weekly gathering of socialite friends to answer her phone. Daniel slipped through the front door quietly, not wanting to disturb anyone. He set his briefcase down in the foyer and loosened his tie. From the living room, he could hear the familiar sound of crystal glasses clinking and polished laughter drifting through the hall. He was about to head upstairs when he heard something that made him stop cold. A voice, sharp, cutting, and unmistakably cruel. "Do you even understand English? I said take this glass and bring me a fresh one. Is that really so complicated for someone like you?" Daniel recognized the voice immediately. It belonged to Claudia Bennett, one of Victoria's closest friends, a woman who wore her wealth like a weapon and sharpened it on anyone she considered beneath her. He stepped silently toward the living room doorway and looked in. Sophia was standing in the middle of the room holding a serving tray, her knuckles pale from gripping it so tightly. Her eyes were glassy, clearly fighting back tears. Around her sat 5 women, Victoria included, all watching the scene unfold with varying degrees of amusement and discomfort. Claudia sat with her legs crossed, swirling her wineglass with deliberate slowness, staring up at Sophia like she was something unpleasant tracked in from outside. "My God, Victoria," Claudia said with a theatrical sigh, loud enough for the entire room and clearly for Sophia to hear. "Where on earth do you find these people? She's been standing there like a statue for 2 minutes. I honestly don't know how you manage." A couple of the women laughed softly. Victoria said nothing, just shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Sophia swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll get you a fresh glass right away." "You should be sorry," Claudia snapped. "And stand up straight when you're in a room like this. Have some dignity, for heaven's sake." That was the moment Daniel walked in. The room fell instantly quiet. Every woman turned to look at him. Some looked surprised. Some looked relieved. Claudia's expression shifted from contempt to a practiced social smile in under a second. "Daniel, what a surprise! We didn't expect you back until tomorrow," Victoria said, rising quickly from her seat. But Daniel wasn't looking at his wife. He was looking at Sophia. He crossed the room with the calm, measured pace of a man who had closed billion-dollar deals and never once raised his voice to do it. He stopped directly beside Sophia and turned to face the group of women. "Sophia," he said, his voice quiet but clear, "would you please set the tray down for a moment?" Sophia blinked, startled. "Of course, Mr. Harrington." He waited until she had placed the tray on the side table. Then he looked directly at her, not at the guests, not at his wife, directly at her and said, "I want to apologize to you." The room went absolutely still. You could have heard a pin drop on that marble floor. Sophia stared at him, confused. "Sir?" "You have worked in this home for 6 years," Daniel said. "You have been reliable, trustworthy, and kind. You have treated this house with more care than most people treat their own homes. And you deserve to be treated with respect, in this house and everywhere else." He turned then, slowly, to face Claudia. His tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Claudia, I don't know what is said or done in other people's homes, but in mine every person is treated with dignity. Every single person, regardless of what they do or what they earn. That is not negotiable, and it is not flexible depending on who is in the room. Claudia's smile had vanished. Her face had gone stiff. Daniel, I heard what you were doing, he said simply, and I'd like you to apologize to Sophia before you say anything else. The silence that followed lasted a full 5 seconds. It felt like 5 minutes. Every woman in the room was staring. Victoria had her hand pressed to her mouth. One of the other guests had quietly set down her wine glass. Claudia's jaw tightened. She was not a woman who apologized, not to anyone, and certainly not, in her mind, to someone like Sophia. But something about Daniel's stillness, his complete lack of aggression paired with his complete unwillingness to back down, made the room feel like it was closing in around her. She looked at Sophia, her expression rigid, and said stiffly, "I apologize if I was rude. It wasn't gracious, but it was something." Daniel nodded once. "Thank you." He turned back to Sophia, and his expression softened entirely. "Take the rest of the afternoon off, Sophia, with full pay, please." Sophia's composure finally broke, just slightly. Her eyes welled up and she nodded, pressing her lips together tightly. "Thank you, Mr. Harrington." She picked up her bag from the hallway and walked out the front door. Within 20 minutes, Claudia and the other guests had quietly gathered their things and left. Victoria found Daniel in his study, standing at the window overlooking the garden. "That was humiliating," she said, her voice tight. "Claudia is one of my oldest friends." "I know," Daniel said without turning around. "You embarrassed her in front of everyone." "She embarrassed herself," he said quietly. "And she embarrassed you, and she embarrassed this home, long before I walked into that room." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "Sophia is just—" Daniel finally turned around. There was no anger in his face, just something honest and tired. "She is not just anything, Victoria. She is a person. She is a mother. She has shown up to this house every single day for 6 years without fail. She has never stolen from us, never broken our trust, never once complained, not even when we asked her to stay late on short notice. She deserves better than what happened today." Victoria looked at the floor. "I should have said something," she admitted, barely above a whisper. "Yes," Daniel said gently. "You should have." The next morning, Sophia arrived at her usual time. On the kitchen counter, she found an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from Daniel and a check, a generous bonus, 3 times her monthly salary. The note read, "Sophia, your work and your character have never gone unnoticed by me, even when it may have seemed otherwise. This home is better because you are in it. Thank you for your grace, your dedication, and your patience. D. Harrington." Sophia sat down at the kitchen table and read the note 3 times. Then she folded it carefully, placed it in her bag, and got up to start her day. Word spread, the way it always does in those circles. People talked about what Daniel Harrington had done. Some admired him, some thought he had overreacted. Claudia Bennett did not speak to Victoria for 2 months, but the people who knew Daniel best weren't surprised at all. Because the measure of a person, the real measure, has never been how they treat those with power over them. It has always been how they treat those who have none. And in a city that often mistakes wealth for worth, Daniel Harrington understood something rare and simple, that a person's value has nothing to do with their paycheck, and everything to do with their character. The end.